What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Or fan, or however many of you guys might be here. Not going to be a long show today. Kind of an irrelevant baseball slate yet again. September baseball, only a few days left in the season. A lot of interesting races, some good action down the stretch. Unfortunately, not involving my Yankees all that much. But we've got a DFS slate to talk about. Little 7-gamer tonight. We've got football for Thursday Night Football, obviously, with some massive contests that are going to be drawing everybody's attention. Limited prize pools in baseball. Limited slate overall, but some interesting angles to talk through. So we'll go through everything game by game. I'm going to try and knock this one out in about an hour, maybe even less. We'll see how it goes. Going to do a 6 o'clock football show for the single game for tonight. And then, who knows, while that game's going on, we might jump back on and do like a quarterback show. I'm not totally sure if I'm going to do that or not yet. I do want to knock out some point actually during the week content for NFL. It's just time just keeps getting away from me every time. But we're going to do the single game show for sure, 6 o'clock. Going to go through tonight's Giants at Niners game. Talk about my miserable Giants after we talk about my miserable Yankees. But right now, we've got Calvin Dunn in the chat. We've got Phil Still here. What's going on, guys? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the lightly attended show. The lightly attended for a lightly attended slate, let's be honest. Very small prize pools. Very small contests. Not really worth playing all that much. I'm not going to be playing this one. Just going to jump into the football contest as usual on Thursdays over the last couple of weeks. Ken Woodhouse is here. What's up, Kev? Hope all's well, buddy. So we get started just looking at the pitching board. It's actually an interesting pitching slate. Very high end with Skubal and Garrett Cole up at the top. Skubal in a fantastic matchup against the Athletics. Garrett Cole, difficult position against the Blue Jays pitching in Yankee Stadium, but there's obviously upside with Garrett Cole on basically any given slate. Max Fried, talented guy going up against the Nationals, low strikeout bunch. He's not the highest strikeout pitcher in the world, and they're pretty good against lefties, but he projects out fairly well. Emmett Sheehan against the free swinging Giants club. I like that spot for a little bit of value. Grayson Rodriguez, 9,000, 8,100, reasonably priced against the Guardians, another low strikeout club, but definitely a gettable team. Jose Barrios also pitching in Yankee Stadium. Not the greatest price on FanDuel. I like him a lot better for the DK money. David Peterson, capable guy, a lot of strikeout upside, 5,500, not a bad price on him. Ranger Suarez, talented pitcher. Another one that's kind of at a big discrepancy from site to site between FanDuel and DK. And then we get into the dregs with Luis Medina. I don't love that spot, but he projects out fairly well against Detroit for a good price on both sites. Kyle Harrison against the Dodgers. Love the pitcher. Don't like the spot at all. Projects out just okay. Hendricks, Oviedo, Gaddis kind of meh at the bottom of the board. So I think it's got a really tall peak. It's got a very capable middle, and even some playable low end options. So it's a good slate. Kevin O, what's going on, Kev? Good day to you, sir. So just to kind of dive on in, since there's not a ton to talk about, we're going to try and make good time here so that I got a little bonus hour between this one and the football show. Let's talk Jose Barrios. Let's talk Garrett Cole. Cole, one of the top two pitchers on the board. Obviously, you're paying a big ticket for him at 12.2, 11.5 across sites. 2.81 ERA and a 3.61 xFIP, pitching very well all season long. 27.2% strikeout rate, which is down a few points from last year, about 5 points overall from last year. Swinging strikes down about 3 points. CSW down over about 4 points overall. But generally, pitching pretty well. Just the nature of the opponent, the nature of the environment in Yankee Stadium, the fact that there are some other viable pitchers leads me to probably, don't take a massive share of Garrett Cole, get him around the field, maybe even a little bit under the field. If the field's super low on him, obviously you can push the accelerator down a little bit. He is very, very likely to put up a very high score, but he's at such a price and a comparative price when we look at the board, that much more on both sites than basically anybody else on the board. It does mean that he's got to have not just a good game, he's got to have a essentially not perfect game, but he's got to be perfect today. Can't really get dinged for like 3 runs and only strike out 8 over like 6 innings. It's not going to get you there for that kind of money. So I do think there's a little bit of a downside if Garrett Cole gets extremely, extremely popular in this spot. But again, he is the highest ceiling pitcher on the slate, or the maybe second highest, depending on what you think of Skubal against Oakland, but one of the most likely guys on the slate to succeed. Not that we're worried about. Come on, Fangraphs. No, if you're not going to cooperate now, come on. We'll give Fangraphs a second. Oh, there it is. I was going to just pull up the game log here real quick. Oh, we are going slow. Yeah, only 4 strikeouts at Pittsburgh the last time out. 2 earned runs, 3 walks. If you get a game like that, that's just not going to work for this kind of money. That was the clunker that I was thinking of. But the game before that, with Milwaukee and the Bronx, struck out 9 over 7 innings, no runs on 3 hits. That's the kind of performance that we need. That's what he's basically got to go out there and do at this relative price on both sites. Especially on DK at 12, too. That's a big chunk of change over there. Jose Berrios on the other side, facing the Yankees. Much more gettable at 8,600 on the DK slate for Berrios. I actually like that spot as compared to don't really love it on the FanDuel slate for 10,800. Yanks are totally gettable, but they've also got some deadly hitters. They've got the stadium is obviously on their side. 178 innings, or not on their side, but it's on the hitting side. You know what I mean? Not that the stadium favors the Yankees. 30 starts, 178 innings for Berrios. Mostly the good Jose Berrios this year, rather than the guy who was really up and down last year, was lousy for power last year. 3.14% home run rate. That's come down by about a percentage point. A little bit less, 3.85% last year. 43.4% hard hits is way down to 35.3. The exit velos come down by a crucial 2 miles an hour from 90 to 88. The barrels are down by about a point. Strikeouts, 22.9%. He's pushed that back up with his ERA sitting 3.49 and a 4.12 xFIP. The xFIP's about the same as last year. The walk rate is up a little bit. The whip is dramatically down, though. He's pitched a lot better this year. It shows in the ERA, 5.23 versus 3.49. That's kind of a lousy surface stat, but sometimes for stuff like that where it's just like, he's better this year. Look at his ERA. Comes in handy. So 8,600 on the DK slate for sure we can get into. 10.8, like I said, on FanDuel. That's another one where it's just kind of a big price to pay for a pitcher without a really, truly clear ceiling. He's got opportunity to exceed this projection for sure, but it's not the greatest spot in the world. There's a lot of strikeouts available in the Yankees lineup for sure, 24.3%. Not saying there's not, but you've got Aaron Judge in there to worry about. You've got, to a lesser extent, Gleyber. No Giancarlo Stanton giving him the day off after he was lamenting his terrible season in the media yesterday. So with the idea of a diminished version of the Yankees lineup, maybe there is a little bit of an uptick for Berrios. You've got IKF in there. Obviously, we've got the Estevan Florial, Oswaldo Cabrera component, Ben Rortvedt. Really, nobody from here down is any good at all at hitting. Florial's good in the minors, has done nothing so far in the show in 33 plate appearances this year and has never really delivered in the show. He's the most interesting bat at the end of the Yankees lineup, so a little bit of a boost, actually, for Berrios. Maybe I do believe in a little bit more ceiling beyond the projection. Still don't like it for the price on FanDuel. But definitely on DK, I think that's a good spot. If you're going to Yankees, which you can take some shots, it's Yankee Stadium. They do have the obvious upside of at least these two guys. I think you're really looking 1 through 5 if you're going to Yankees. DJ 3,700, 2,700, plays 3 positions on FanDuel, relegated just to first base on DK. But it doesn't really matter because even if you want Jake Bauers, you can stick him in the outfield and you still got both of them. Not that you really need to go out of your way for Jake Bauers or DJ LeMahieu. A 100 WRC plus on this season for DJ. Pretty weak year, 15 home runs. Really down in the triple slash. Judge, obviously superstar, 6,500, 3,900, 32 home runs, a 318 ISO, creating runs 62% better than average. Pair him with Gleyber. That's your best 2 Yankees. 44-32 is cheap for Gleyber. 25 homers, 13 steals, 24% better than average creating runs. And it just falls off a cliff. Just look at the WRC plus numbers. Jake Bauers has a little bit of power. Over 255 plate appearances, that's a pretty damn good contact profile. But he's only really turned it into 11 home runs. A 198, 275, 405 triple slash. 207 ISO is good, but 15% worse than average creating runs. Not ideal. Volpe, good for counting stats. Not much else. 14% below average creating runs. Wildly inconsistent with a 284 on base, 208 average. And then, just like I said, these guys are just lousy hitters. And then Florial would be the next priority after Volpe in the lineup. 2,600, 2,500. You could even make a good argument that there are better shortstops to roster than Volpe, and you could go to Florial instead of Volpe. Could also argue that Florial's a better option than Jake Bauers, but hitting down lineup separated from the guys that you truly want by a pretty wide gulf there, not ideal. Blue Jays bats, definitely the better of these two teams right now, but they're going up against the much better pitcher in Garrett Cole, so tempered expectations for the Blue Jays. If you're going there, no Vladdy Guerrero in the projected lineup. Not sure if he's going to play. I know he's dealing with, he scratched just before the game yesterday, had to scramble and get that one replaced. Caused me to miss that DJ Stewart also scratched. That one happened like right at lock. But those were inconvenient yesterday on yesterday's slate. But assuming you don't get Vladdy, definitely a big downgrade to their lineup. But they're still good overall, just not a great spot against Cole. So just minor hedge position. Maybe attack some of the ownership of Cole if you want to, but I don't think it's a great position to take. He just doesn't typically get blown up. Even if he doesn't deliver, gives up a couple of runs for the salary, the times that he's going to give up the 8-10 runs that you need, the multiple home runs that you need, it's pretty few and far between. If you're going there, Springer and Bichette are absolute priorities off the top. I don't mind Kevin Biggio if he's hitting third, 2,800, 2,500 across sites. 9 home runs, 5 stolen bases, a little bit of lefty pop, target for short porch and right. Davis Schneider, 51.35, a little bit expensive, but he does lead the team in our home run model at 11.57 right now. Spencer Horowitz, 2,700, 2,600, another lefty bat. Take a shot at, again, the short porch and right. Same thing with Dalton Varsho. 6.77 in the home run model for Varsho. Horowitz should have a number there. I got to fill in the backbone, I guess, for him. Chapman, 7.93, realistic power upside for him. He just needs to get into one on the right angle, and he can definitely drive a ball into the seats at Yankee Stadium. I mean, even if he gets it at the wrong angle, he's all the power that he strikes the ball with could drive the ball. 56.1% hard hit rate. Only 15 homers, only a 183 ISO. Not the best season overall in the world, but makes tremendous contact. Kirk and Kiermaier just kind of mix ins at the bottom, but either one of them could go deep in this one. Wilson Contreras changed from day-to-day to 10-day IL. Irrelevant note. So it's really a pitching game here. Despite the Yankee Stadium of it, I think you could throw a couple darts with either team, but it's Garrett Cole, Jose Barrios, and then got to go Yankees bats on top of Blue Jays bats, but they're basically, at worst, they're tied. On the board, they rank 9th and 10th. Toronto 9th, Yankees 10th. But Yankees squeak by 7th on both sites by point per dollar value, where Toronto is 8th and 9th FanDuel DK. And Yanks are 5th by home run upside, where the Blue Jays are 7th. So like I said, the bats are essentially tied. Braves and the Nationals. Braves drawing monster power numbers as usual. Also monster projections. Lead the board by projections. Second overall by home run power. First by point per dollar value on both sites as usual, because they just draw some immense projections even though they're expensive. Probably a better way to do those value marks, but for right now, that's what we're doing with them. Ronnie Acuna, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley. It is the everyday version of the lineup except for Darno in for Murph. As we all know that we can absolutely play Travis Darno when he's in the lineup. 11 home runs on the season. Fits right in with the team theme of striking the baseball very hard. 8.9% barrels, 42.2% hard hits. He only cost 4,200, 2,900. 11 homers and a 185 ISO and 268 plate appearances. Best backup catcher option in baseball. Eddie Rosario, Orlando Arcia, Michael Harris, all playable from the bottom. Take any one or any two of these 4 guys and combine them with any one or two of these 5 guys in any order that you can, and you're off and running with a Brave stack. It doesn't really matter who's sitting where in the lineup. They're just productive from top to bottom. Arcia's down to a 100 WRC plus on the season, 17 homers as a cheap shortstop option on both sites. I'll absolutely take that. Rosario, 106 WRC plus. He's got 21 homers. Mikey Harris, 115 WRC plus, 18 homers. Got to get to 20. 2020 season after his ridiculously bad start would be pretty amazing. And then the top of the lineup, Marcell Ozuna, 35 home runs at 265 ISO as the low man on the totem pole, basically. 31 homers for Ozzie Albies, 230 ISO, 117 WRC plus at second base makes him immensely valuable. Ronald Acuna shooting for 40-70. I think he gets there. 170 WRC plus. Just a ridiculous season. There was a tweet earlier in the day. He and Ty Cobb were apparently born on the same day, 111 years apart. I got it right here. They're the only two players in baseball history to have 75 plus extra base hits and 60 plus stolen bases in the same season. They were both born on December 18th, 111 years apart. My buddy Lou looked it up after I sent the tweet to those guys in our text group. Apparently, Ty Cobb that year hit .419 with 24 triples, 147 runs scored, and 83 stolen bases. That's also a very good year. Probably would have been a valuable DFS player. Apparently not a great human, though. On the national side, I think you maybe take a couple shots at Max Fried, but overall, Max is a pretty good lefty, and he's pretty good at limiting power. So even if we're worried about the strikeout upside, and he's had a pretty decent year for strikeouts when he's on the mound. 71 2/3 innings, 13 starts, 25.3% strikeout rate. That's not bad. 5.9% walks. What did he do last year? That's up, 2 points over last year, 2 points over the year before. So when I said that he was a low strikeout guy, I didn't realize that he'd kicked that up a notch this season in his limited action. But what I really like about Max is just typically keeping the ball down, limiting home run power, limiting barrels, 32.5% hard hits, 3.6% barrels, a 2.08% home run rate, 2.64 ERA, 3.18 xFIP. He's a very talented pitcher. It's just they're pretty frisky. They're pretty good against lefties. Outside of CJ Abrams, not a great option off the top of the lineup. He hasn't been good against lefties through most of the season. We'll pull him up real quick. Let me grab the whole board, actually. Team lefties. No data's available. That's weird. What did I do? All right. I guess we won't grab the board. Maybe it's available on the traditional one. Team stats. Very strange. All right. We can do it on the traditional board, I think. Washington. They're down to 99 WRC plus against lefties, too. So, CJ, there's what we were looking for. 24.2% strikeouts against fellow lefties. 245 on base with a 280 slug and a 44 WRC plus. I don't have the average because it's on a different tab, which is annoying. 168 average, and that's over 161 same-handed plate appearances. A lot of the other guys on this team are pretty damn good against lefties. Lane Thomas is exceptionally good, 331 average, 331, 376, 576 with a 154 WRC plus for Lane Thomas. So he excels against lefties. He would be a priority bat in this lineup if you're going there, 4,600, 3,200. Joey Meneses, 281, 328, 413 on the season. Against lefties, Joey Meneses has a 112 WRC plus. Keibert Ruiz down to a 98 WRC plus. But he's absurd at putting the ball in play against lefties. In 152 plate appearances, he strikes out at a 5.3% clip and walks at a 3.9% clip, which is just bonkers. So the ball's constantly in play with Keibert. He's got more power than he's shown overall. Against lefties, he's slashing 289, 329, 401 with a 113 ISO, 98 WRC plus, like I said, and I think just one or two of his home runs. Just one of his home runs. So he gets more power against righties, but he's a very, very good hitter and very effective at putting the ball in play against lefties. So I don't mind the Keibert spot. Carter Kaboom, 3,100, 2,700, a cheap option at third base if you're stacking this team. And then it kind of starts falling off with Luis Garcia, Drew Millis, Alex Call, Jake Young. Limited options down there. Call's been pretty good against lefties. He's up to... I know he's dropped 96 WRC plus now. Only a 342 on base. Well, not only 342 on base is good. 13.8% walks in the split, 16.4% strikeouts, over 152 plate appearances with 3 of his home runs, 240 average. The new tab lays that all out in the same spot. It's so much easier. Doesn't jibe with any of my data pulls in my model, but it is easier to read on shows. So the Nats really limited, I think, by the idea that Max Fried is very good at just keeping the ball in the yard. They're going to really have to sequence a pitch against a pitcher who doesn't really walk that many, doesn't give up all that many opportunities. So As much as we might go to them against the typical lefty, I don't really love the spot for the Nationals. Obviously, Jake Irvin, we're just not going to against the Braves. I think everybody knew that, even if you didn't pick up on the fact that I just completely skipped them. 4.34 ERA, 5.11 xFIP, 19% strikeouts, 10% walks, and all this power against the Braves. No thanks. Even for cheap, just don't do it. Brave stacks way up here. Max Fried, I think he can definitely play against the Nats. Not my favorite spot for pitching. It's not like he's cheap, but he does project well. He was third on the board, so pretty good option for pitching, actually. And then minor hedge position of Nationals, maybe. Orioles and the Guardians. The Orioles also flashing monster power upside. They are the number 1 team for home runs. They are the number 3 team by projections, 4th by FanDuel value, 5th by DK point per dollar value. Like them a lot here. Gunnar was my home run pick of the day at 18.22 in the model. We've also got Adley, Santander, O'Hearn, and Sed Mullins all over the magic number, with these 3 guys not far behind the magic number. So basically everybody in this one has some pretty good home run upside against Hunter Gaddis. Gaddis striking out 13.5% over 39 innings, 6 starts, a 6.33 xFIP, a 4.85 ERA, 3.53% home runs. In a very small sample last year, he was just completely atrocious. 17.5% home runs is just hilarious, and only 7 1/3. It's not fair to do. 18.41 ERA, just 2 disastrous starts last year. I think there's massive upside for the Orioles here, and I would not be looking at Hunter Gaddis. Gaddis this season, it's got to be some minor league numbers in here, I think. Gaddis this season in AAA, 73 1/3, has a 6.14 ERA and a 5.92 xFIP with a 19.4% strikeout rate and a 9.9% walk rate and a 2.21 home run per 9 in AAA this year. He is not good. This is a major target for the Orioles. He's given up 18 home runs to 335 AAA hitters. Yeah, big-time target for the Orioles. Do not roster for DFS. Not at 7,300 and not at 6,200. Just not worth it. Orioles lineup, like I said, Gunnar off the top, 54-38 is the home run pick of the day. He's got 27 on the year, creating runs 25% better than average. Tremendous option there. Adley gets on base, puts the ball in play like crazy, gets on base, draws walks, 270, 366, 424, 21% better than average creating runs. Everybody in the starting lineup except for Adam Frazier creating runs at or above the league average. Not bad. Santander hits from both sides of the plate. Still only 45-33. He's got 27 homers, a 221 ISO, 119 WRC+, doing what he does every season. Too cheap. Ryan O'Hearn, still cheap. Not getting taxed for the dynamite season. 14 homers, 4 steals, a 133 WRC+, a 206 ISO. Another lefty bat to throw at Hunter Gaddis. Sed Mullins, tons of power, tons of speed. 15 homers, 19 steals, 195 ISO, 108 WRC+, and 424 plate appearances. Excellent option in hitting 5th. Austin Hayes continuing a strong season, 281, 328, 458 with a 115 WRC+, up to 16 homers, a 40.4% hard hit, 9.2% barrel rate for only 3,600, 3,300. It's an excellent option late in the lineup. Hicks, Frazier, Westberg, all playable parts, all okay at worst mix-ins. Westberg's probably my favorite given the multi-position eligibility, the cheap pricing across sites. He's at league average for run creation, 3 home runs, 4 steals in his first 206 plate appearances in his career. Highly regarded kid, does have a 44.8% hard hit rate. Pretty strong option hitting 9th. Pretty capable wraparound guy as well. Guardian side, going up against Grayson Rodriguez. What's he done in the last couple? Just want to check what the innings look like. Hey, he went 8th the last time out. That's not bad. Lone Wolf's here. What's up, Lone Wolf? Mamba's here. Podegen Stoner showed up. What's going on, guys? Just been kind of cruising through the slate without really checking the chat. We're trying to get through this one quick if you missed the top of the show. We got football for the single game slate coming up at 6 o'clock. So I'm trying to punch out of this by like 5. Get through these games. Not shortchange anybody, but get through these games, punch out of here at 5 o'clock. Spend an hour making sure the dashboard's in shape, getting my thoughts together about the single gamer. Then we'll go like 6 to 7 for that. Still torn about whether I'll jump on. I was thinking, like, earlier in the day, I was like, if I have everything all set, and the projections, by the way, free projections for week 3 up on the website for the main slate for Sunday. Been updating it all through the week, just trying to catch up with the injuries and the changes and the trades and so on and so forth. Since I put it up, there's been another change. Who's not starting? Somebody's not starting. Regardless, I saw a pop up that somebody's not starting, so I have yet another update to make to it. But the point is, they're up there. First cut is up on the website anyway for Sunday main projections. The projections are updated. I updated them right before the show for tonight's football game. We'll talk through all of that at 6 o'clock. But let's keep going with baseball. So Grayson Rodriguez went 8 innings in his last start. 5 hits, struck out 7 against the Rays. Only 4 1/3 in the start before that. Gave up 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, but allowed 7 hits. Gave up 2 earned, 4 runs total. That's where the problem came in. So came into that one early. But before that, 3 straight starts of 6 innings, a 7 inning, and then another 6. So has been pitching pretty deep into games since the beginning of August, which is good to see for a kid that's, a young kid that's a precious arm for the organization. Doesn't seem like they're really too concerned about the innings upside, even with the playoffs coming. They're just kind of letting him go full bore. So unless we hear or see something different about his innings, I think we consider him full go. In which case, pretty interesting starter against the Guardians, given an $8,100, $9,000 price. 24.8% strikeout rate, a 4.53 ERA with a 3.83 xFIP. Giving up a little bit in terms of home run upside. Not too much with barrels. 7.7% barrel rate is fine. 10.1 degree average launch is fine. A little bit too much on the hard hits at 44.1 and almost a 90-mile-an-hour exit velo. Had a few clunky games in there for home runs through the season, but overall has been very good since he came back, July 17th. He's allowed 3 home runs in 11 games since then, after kind of a home run problem in the first half of the season before May 26th when he went out. 3 home runs in his last appearance there. Had multiple 3 home run games and 3 2 home run games in his first, call it 12 starts. So it was an issue for him early, and it's really been resolved since he returned. So I like the spot. Guardians don't have a ton of power anyway. They are fairly low strikeout. You've got 3 guys up at the top who are terrific at not striking out. Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez, and Josh Naylor, all premium options up the top for avoiding the strikeout. Kwan getting a little bit more involved lately. He's got the on base pushed up to 348 after lingering in the 330s and low 340s all season. We talked about that needing to be really truly around 270 for him to have, or 370 for him to have, excellent upside like he did last year. But he's pulling it together a little bit. 275 average. He's up to 20 steals, a 105 WRC plus. So getting more involved. Jose Ramirez is a star, 5,800, 4,000, easy enough to get to if you want him. If you want to go to Guardians, you can one-off Jose Ramirez for those prices. It's not a bad spot. 24 home runs, 26 steals, a 122 WRC plus. Josh Naylor in his 456 plate appearances has actually been a little bit better. 17 home runs, 9 steals, a 311, 351, 501 triple slash, a 129 WRC plus. Not bad at all. Cole Calhoun, not really striking out much, kind of fitting in with the team here. Not really barreling the ball or hitting it all that hard, but does have 5 home runs and 154 plate appearances. Always has been a lefty power bat against a righty, so maybe you sneak in a Cole Calhoun for a little bit of home run potential. Not great. That's where the options start to diminish a little bit in this lineup. Andres Jimenez, 3,800, 3,100, 13 homers, 30 steals, 96 WRC plus. Another guy who's been a little bit more involved second half than he was in this team's tragic first half. Ramon Laureano, Will Brennan, Bo Naylor, Gabe Arias. Arias has big-time power at the bottom of the lineup. 10 home runs in 332. Really inconsistent 32.8% strikeout rate, but nearly a 10% barrel rate, 46.2% hard hits. I like him better than Will Brennan and Ramon Laureano. Wish he was hitting up here. Bo Naylor, for DK purposes anyway, cheap catcher that you can get away with if you're going to Guardian stacks. 3,400, 9 home runs and 211 plate appearances. It's not too bad for power production. A 214 ISO, 118 WRC plus. He's been pretty good. So Guardians are limited though. I mean, it's a stack that you can throw in a few times, maybe use them in a few value spots. But I prefer Grayson Rodriguez in the matchup there. Grayson Rodriguez. Orioles bats way up top. Grayson Rodriguez. Guardians bats as a mixer. No Hunter Gaddis at all. Do not roster Hunter Gaddis. Ranger Suarez, David Peterson. I think we can use both of these pitchers. What did Peterson's innings look like last time out? He was pretty good the last time out, right? Yep, 10 Ks that last game. Gave up 2 earned runs, a homer. Struck out 8 the game before that in 6 innings. Came out after 5 2/3, so he didn't book the quality start that last time in against Cincinnati. But a pretty dynamite game for a pitcher who is very, very cheap. 7,900, 5,500. This is a primo value option on DK. Not the greatest matchup in the world going up against the Phillies, obviously. But this is a pitcher who is, as we've talked about every time he's taken the mound lately, he has proven himself over the last couple of years of being a capable major league strikeout pitcher, if nothing else. 24% in 66 2/3, 15 starts 2 years ago. 27.8% last year in 105 2/3, 19 starts. Say what you will about the walk rate, the problems with that, puts way too many guys on base, leads to, last year, not really, a 3.83 ERA and a 3.31 xFIP are terrific. This year, 9.9% walks has led to a 5.22 ERA, and 2 years ago it was 5.54, but the xFIP's always in the threes. Better pitcher under the surface than he looks like on, at the at surface level. That was clunky. 12.5% swinging strikes this year, 12.8% last year, up from 11.1 2 years ago. A capable pitcher for sure. It's just a good Phillies team on the other side. But if I was building 150 lineups on DK, $5,500 David Peterson would definitely be a part of them. On FanDuel, I think 7,900, pretty good price over there, especially compared to Ranger Suarez for 93 with essentially the same projection. That's a definite value spot. Ken Woodhouse says Gaddis could pull a Wayno. A little fly here. Poji says, don't forget to fill the bung. Mob is cleaning up his bunt take from the other day. I want to clear that up by saying I'm only suggesting bunting in high-pressure situations, i.e. the playoffs, the wild card, and the championship. I mean, I would always rather play it by the numbers, even in small 3-game series, whatever. But you do get those situations where the math goes out the window if you look at just one game and one situation. So you either ride with the math or you don't. So I get what you're saying. Yeah, I don't like Gaddis' chances of pulling a Wayno. I don't like Gaddis' chances of doing very much other than giving up a couple home runs. I think you could grab some Phillies against David Peterson, certainly. He allows a little bit of power, 3.36% home runs, walks too many as we illustrated, giving up a lot of hard hits, but keeps the ball down fairly reliably when he is giving up contact, only 4.8 degree average launch. So a pretty good starter, not the greatest spot in the world for the Phillies. I feel like my camera's up a little high. But if you're going there, Kyle Schwarber, obviously off the top, he pushes through the launch angle problem. 11.65 in the home run model. He's got 45 on the season, a 278 ISO, 120 WRC plus, and another tremendous Kyle Schwarber season. Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, Bryce Harper, all playable parts. Turner, 6,300, 4,000, back to full price, back to basically full performance, 108 WRC plus, 26 homers, 28 steals. The average isn't what it once was. The on base is only 319, but really pulled his season together. Alec Boehm, 4,300, 2,900, helps you offset the price of Turner. Bryce Harper, 61-37, a very effective bat, 287, 392, 485, creating runs 37% better than average to lead this team. 19 homers, 10 steals in 515 plate appearances. Boehm has been really good. He's got 17 homers. He's been 7% better than average creating runs. JT Realmuto is above the waterline for run creation, a 205 ISO, 19 home runs and 14 steals as a catcher who's really not priced high enough in most slates. 5,000 where you need a catcher for what he does at the plate, that's not bad. For the fact that he hits 5th in this lineup, that's not bad. 2,800 on FanDuel, totally playable. Pretend he's a first baseman. Nicky Castellanos, 4,800, 3,500, 27 homers, 10 steals, 107 WRC plus. Apparently hit a baseball into the stands the other day that a guy caught while holding a baby and then handed off the baby so that he could throw the ball back. My buddy Charlie was telling me about that last night. Missed that replay. Bryson Stott, 4,600, 3,100, 15 homers, 29 steals, an outrageously good season out of him. Joan Rojas, Christian Pache, mix and match options at the bottom of the lineup, but they're both above average for run creation in their small samples. 136 plate appearances for Rojas. He's been really good. 301, 344, 439. 12% better than average creating runs, up to 13 steals. Pache, only 72 plate appearances, but he's got 2 homers, a stolen base, 124 WRC+. plus. Mets bats going up against Ranger Suarez, 79.93 for Suarez. Not a bad price. Projects out okay. Like him a lot better at DK on the price for the price. I think he's playable on FanDuel, but when we've got a pretty high peak with Skubal, with Garrett Cole, I don't know how much ceiling Suarez really offers. 3.80 ERA, 4.0 xFIP, 9% walks, 22.4% strikeouts. Limits power, 8.1 degree average launch, 8.4% barrel rate, only 87.9 miles an hour of exit velo, 2.46% home run rate. So he's also pretty good at limiting, keeping power in check. So might cap the Mets upside, but it looks like some of their hitters are pushing through. I like what they're showing in the home run model. Let's see if we got the confirm lineup. Doesn't look like we got the confirm yet. Yes, we did. All right. I don't know why sometimes, particularly when I'm in the middle of the show, Lab stops updating automatically. So the Metsies, whoops. I think that's exactly the lineup that we had in. So the Mets, Nimmo, Ronnie Mauricio is interesting, hitting second. Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor hitting cleanup. I like that configuration of this lineup. Mauricio's been really good so far. 65 plate appearances, got a homer, 6 stolen bases, creating runs 12% better than average. 300, 354, 400. Only a 100 ISO, not flashing a ton of power, but a 40.9% hard hit rate. 24.6% strikeouts is a little higher than you want, but you take that from a rookie making his first 65 plate appearances. And a high-end kid at that. 4,200 for 2 positions on DK. 2,800 for 3 positions on FanDuel. Dynamite option at the top of the lineup. Nimmo, great leadoff hitter. 47.6% hard hits. He's up to 24 home runs of his own. He's got a 360 on base, so he's a very good correlated scoring option. Alonso, for only 5,500, 4,200. Only 5,500. And also on FanDuel, he costs 4,200, which is the correct price. The DK price is way too cheap. Same thing for Lindor. 5,400 for him at shortstop, too cheap. But Alonso especially. First base, 45 home runs this season, a 297 ISO, a 127 WRC+. plus. What's not to like? I don't understand why he's so cheap. 15.2% barrels, 40.6% hard hits. Only strikes out 22.5% of the time. Sign me up. 26 homers, 28 steals for Lindor, a 116 WRC+, plus, a 202 ISO. Perfectly serviceable season out of him. Vientos is cheap for a guy with a 10.9% barrel rate, a 52.7% hard hit rate. He's up to 7 home runs and 199 plate appearances. It hasn't been pretty. 226, 266, 376, 25% worse than average creating runs. But if we're home run hunting for cheap prices in a lineup that is not bad, he's an option. Not that Suarez is overly targetable for home run power. McNeil, Beatty, LoCastro, all just kind of mix-ins at the bottom of the lineup. LoCastro's really just here for a little bit of defense. Maybe if he happens to get on base, a little bit of speed. In 47 plate appearances, he's got a 348 on base, but only 6 stolen bases, and 6 stolen bases, but overall a pretty limited option. Beatty's cheap, 3,200, 2,400. He's got a 43.9% hard hit rate. He's only turned it into 212, 282, 323 with a 111 ISO, 8 home runs and 352 plate appearances. Hasn't really delivered what they were hoping for, but room to grow at worst. And he's very, very cheap. Alvarez, 3,800, 2,800. Good option at catcher. He's been stuck at these 23 home runs for a little bit now. 215, 290, 439. Everything is really cooled, but it's still a dynamite rookie season, and we know there's a clear ceiling here. Still has maintained a 12.3% barrel rate, 44.2% hard hits, 224 ISO, exactly at league average for run creation. Definitely a downswing after the outrageous surge, but a playable part at catcher at worst. So this one I would probably go... I really like that DK value for David Peterson, so I'm going to say David Peterson value. Where do the teams rank? Mets are 5th, 4th by home run upside. Phillies are 8th, 12th by home run upside. So I've got David Peterson for value. Ranger Suarez, who ranks 8th out of 14 pitchers. Mets bats, Phillies bats. and you could easily slide the bats ahead of Ranger Suarez. Just projects out okay. I don't really like him on DK, but on FanDuel rather for 93. He's playable, but not great. I like him on DK. 3 games to go. 439. Should be able to punch out around 5. Pirates and the Cubs. See what we got lineups wise. We got them both. Pirates with leadoff counter Joe facing Kyle Hendricks. Limited pitching on both sides in this one. Hendo does give you the veteran innings eater upside every now and again. Not a premium option by any means. 7,600, 8,400. Not really priced for extreme value, but he's on the board probably as a value dart. 24.73 projection in the FanDuel scale. It's not bad for the money. Going up against a Pirates team that has a pretty aggressive swing strikeout rate across the confirmed version of the lineup, 24.4%. That's including Miguel Andujar's 14.5 in 69 plate appearances. If we take that out, the guys with bigger samples jump to, 25.6%. So a pretty big jump. Hendricks, 16.3% strikeouts. Not like he's got major strikeout upside, but maybe he picks up 1 or 2 extra ones over 6 innings. If he manages to get through it fairly clean, we've got a little bit of potential for the money. It's not great, but it's a fairly thin pitching slate. Only 14 options available on a 7-gamer. 3.77 ERA, 4.43 xFIP. It's not like he's been bad. He's been Kyle Hendricks. 6.5% barrels, only allows a 31.2% hard hit rate, 85.3 miles an hour of exit velo, a 2.46% home run rate. At worst, Kyle Hendricks is not overly targetable in terms of a pitcher. Like a lot of low strikeout pitchers, you kind of just say, hey, I'm going to throw bats at. Hendricks doesn't really fall into that bucket. He's a pretty serviceable guy in terms of just being a decent major league pitcher. Doesn't get lit up all that often. If you're going to Pirates bats, Jack Suwinski is a priority, 3,600, 2,900, leads the team with a 12+ in the home run model. Everybody else below the magic number, but Andujar's pushing to 8.28, Brian Reynolds an 8.43, against a pitcher who, again, doesn't really give up a ton in terms of premium contact or in terms of home runs. So just a little bit of interesting talent winning out over his talent in the model. 16.9% barrels for Suwinski, 45.1% hard hits. A lot of hard hits at the top of the lineup here. A couple of decent barrel rates. But overall, the Pirates are fairly limited. 22 home runs for Reynolds, 25 for Suwinski. Nobody else above the 14 that Brian Hayes is up to now. I do like Hayes, as you guys know, 49% hard hits for only 4,600, 3,000. Pretty decent triple slash at this point, 276, 314, 457, up to a 103 WRC+. Feel like our positive vibes and our positive discussion about Brian Hayes worked and has kind of brought him along a little bit, guys. Got to keep it up. Got to increase the on-base percentage, but we're getting them there. Connor Joe off the top, 3,200, 2,700, a middling option. 11 home runs, 236, 330, 416, 102 WRC+. I prefer him against lefties, but he's playable given the spot in the lineup, the cheap pricing, the multi-position. Andujar, playable, 9.1% barrels, 41.8% hard hits, 4 home runs. Should have had a better chance than he did in the majors. Got kind of screwed organizationally by the Yankees. Has always been a talented guy when he's had opportunities. 246 ISO so far in his 69 plate appearances. 4 home runs in 69 opportunities, a 105 WRC+. Only striking out 14.5% of the time. Very small sample, but he's been this kind of a guy throughout his weird, brief career. Jared Triolo, 163 plate appearances, 92 WRC+, 2 homers, 4 steals. Andy Rodriguez, Leo Peguero, a little bit of power from the prospects. 7 home runs on the board for Peguero. Only 2 for Andy so far, but both expected to hit, both cheap late in the lineup. If you're going to Pirates, I'm not skipping these guys all that often. I like both bats. I like the positional eligibility that they've got, the cheap pricing. It's just, I don't think you're going to Pirates all that often on this slate. Cubbies, on the other hand, I think is a pretty decent stack to get to. They rank just the middle of the board, 7th overall. Not great for value because there's some high prices here. But going up against Johan Oviedo, there's probably additional upside beyond that that's not being captured necessarily. He's not terrible for power, only 2.33% home runs. But that's coming on nearly 40% hard hits, 7.9% barrels. A little bit more aggressive hard hits than Hendo. 20.2% strikeouts, so he's not exactly blowing the world away in terms of strikeouts. Walks 10.4%. Too many guys on base. ERA is 4.27. The xFIP is a half run and change higher. Does have a decent 11.2% swinging strike rate, but only 26.5% CSW. 166 and 2/3, 30 starts. He's pitched a full season. Just kind of mediocre option. 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,000 on DK. I don't really love it pitching against the Cubbies at Wrigley. Don't see a ton of upside here. Doesn't really project well for the money. Not my spot for value. I like the Cubbies on the other side. Not getting tremendous home run marks for them. Chris Morel only 7.72 is a little bit low, but he's been fairly good at keeping power in check over 30 starts. Last year he was pretty good over 8 starts. Year before in 13 starts, so he's never really had a much issue with power. But the Cubbies are really good at drawing walks. They're really good at creating runs and sequencing. So I like their opportunity to get to them for at least a handful of runs here. On a 7-game slate, if they put up 6-7 runs, that could be a viable second stack. You might not have the night where 2 teams go off for monster scores. Mike Tauchman's cheap in the leadoff spot, 36-28, 7 home runs, 6 stolen bases, a 105 WRC+. Didn't mean to click there. Nico Hoerner, 5,700, 3,400. FanDuel price keeps dropping a little bit. DK's clinging up at the high fives. 9 home runs, 41 stolen bases, a 103 WRC+. Little high price still for my money. But everybody else, like Ian Happ and Mike Tauchman around him, if you're just going to the top of the lineup stack, helps average down the pricing if nothing else. Happ is very good, 22.2% strikeouts, 14.5% walks, gets on at a 362 clip. So all these guys in the top 4 get on at or about 350 or above. All of them are very positive run creators. A lot of talent here. 19 homers, 14 steals for Happ on the season, leading into Cody Bellinger, their best overall player. Dynamite triple slash, 26 homers, 20 steals, creating runs 37% better than average. Dansby, 21 homers, 7 steals, 105 WRC+. Probably going to settle in and finish 23 homers somewhere around there in the next 2 weeks. Maybe it gets 2 more. A little bit short of his expectations, a little bit short of previous performances, but an okay season and definitely a valuable shortstop season. 11.1% barrels. 10.4% hard hit barrels and 47.8% hard hits for Seiya Suzuki. 15.3 and 50% for Chris Morel. Dynamite power late in the lineup. Suzuki's up to 19 homers. Had another one last night. 200 ISO. Morel, 24 homers, 253 ISO. 2 very strong options late in the lineup. And then John Gomes, Miles Mastrobuoni. Mastrobuoni, 2,100. He was dead minimum yesterday at the bottom of the lineup. I used him in a spot. 10 stolen bases, 1 home run. Very cheap option. Not a great hitter. Not a great run creator. 70 WRC+. Gomes has 9 home runs in 386 plate appearances. A pretty decent triple slash. Only a 93 WRC+, but a playable part at catcher. But priorities basically... priorities are these 5 guys. And then these 2 guys are pretty good lead-ins to that stack. So I like the opportunity for the Cubs. Not my highest ranked stack, but if I was building out 150, I would have a pretty decent amount of them. So it'd be Cubbies, Kyle Hendricks for value, I guess. Just kind of a mixer, not a pitcher you really want to go out of your way for, but a value mixer, an SP2 mixer for sure at 7,600 on the DK slate. And then really only limited shares of anything Pirates. A couple of games left. Doesn't look like we've got lineups for these. I'll reload the page one more time. Nope. What's going on in the chat? Matt Pat's got a Dansby one-off. What's up, Matt Patterson? Good to see you, buddy. Mamba says, come on, Terry. My Phillies at home are going to destroy the Mets. I just think that it's a decent David Peterson spot for DFS at that cheapo price. I'm not saying they're not going to destroy the Mets. Jake Swales says, Phillies the top stack tonight. 31% ownership on DK or FanDuel. I think that's a reasonable number. He's crazy cheap. He's got good strikeout potential. 55.79. It's 25.3% strikeout rate this year. It's always been a sub 4x FIP, as we highlighted just a couple minutes ago. He's a talented guy. Does that mean the Phillies aren't going to destroy him? No, not by any means. But he's a talented guy. If he's that chalky, as Jake points out, destined to fail is putting it one way. But if he's that chalky, it's definitely a spot that you can look to other value plays for, undercut the chalk, and slide it around into different spots for value. It's just this is such an extreme value price on the DK slate. At 7,900 on FanDuel, you've got other options that price similarly. Emmett Sheehan, for example, is cheaper. I don't know if the innings will be there. Luis Medina, if you wanted to roll those dice, is cheaper. I don't think that one's all that great. Hasn't been a good pitcher. You could go to these guys in the eights if you wanted to tangle with the Dodgers, if you wanted to go to Hendo. It's not easy to get away from the 7,900, but it's near impossible to get away from the 55. I think the chalk makes a lot of sense on DK. On FanDuel, a little bit easier to avoid. Let's get to that Tigers game. Tariq Skubal, monster projection, 30.7% strikeout rate on the season, a 4.7% walk rate in his 69 and a third innings, 13 starts, only allowing a 1.46% home run rate, 40.2% hard hits, but it comes on a 4% with a 4% barrel rate, 9.3 degree average launch. Very, very good at keeping the ball down, keeping power in check. Lefty against the Athletics limits a lot of their power bats. Some of their better hitters are lefties when it comes to power upside. They do have Brent Rooker, who's got 27 home runs from the right side. They do have Shea Langoliers, who's got 20 from the right side. Both those guys approaching or above 30% strikeouts. I think Tariq Skubal has a day here. This is definitely one to prioritize. 10-3, comparatively low priced compared to Cole, given that he projects out several points ahead of Cole. One of the best matchups overall in baseball. 9-6 is just downright cheap for him on any slate comparative to anybody. That's just way too cheap for this spot for Tariq Skubal. So I like this quite a bit. This would be my priority number one pitcher if I was building any lineups at all. If I'm building one, I might throw one in. It's probably just going to be a Skubal lineup. I assume it'll be chalky. I just don't care. It's that good a spot. If you're going to Athletics, Zach Geloff, definitely a good righty bat. 13 home runs, 13 steals, and 256 plate appearances, a 260 ISO, 142 WRC+. Noda from the left side, 16% walks, but strikes out 33.6% of the time. 15 home runs. Wonder how many of them are against lefties. I think he was good against lefties, I want to say, but I might be making that up. Nope, good against fellow lefties. 133 WRC+, 15.1% walks in 86 plate appearances, and 5 of his home runs for Ryan Noda. So not bad. He doesn't really suffer in a lefty-lefty. Very good on-base option. High strikeout, but a little bit of power. So Noda's not a bad option. Aledmys Diaz, if he's hitting here, just kind of skippable, utility man, veteran utility man type. Brent Rooker's got power. Still, he's at 27 home runs. Good for him. He got over the 25s. Chasing 30 now. Maybe he gets there. An effective season overall. Massive strikeout rate, flawed hitter overall, 241, 324, 477 though. Creating runs 22% better than average. You take that, especially for these prices for DFS purposes. Cheap enough if you're stacking Athletics. Rooker's probably priority number 3. 1, 2, 3. Then it's probably Langoliers on either site, really. 2,900 is very cheap where you need catchers. All he really does is hit home runs from time to time. He's got 20 and 465 plate appearances. Not even the most consistent, low-end power bat in the world, but as a very cheap catcher where you have to play the position, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just, very good matchup against a pitcher who doesn't allow a lot of power. Not the right spot for it, but that's the nature of the play with Langoliers. Jordan Diaz, 25-24, 10 home runs in 274 plate appearances, only an 82 WRC+, only a 150 ISO. Smith, Allen, Esteury Ruiz, pretty skippable in this matchup down the bottom, all well below average creating runs. Ruiz, over 60 stolen bases at this point, which is an accomplishment in 468 plate appearances with only a 304 on-base percentage. Let's see you next year, see if you can get your 100. Tigers bats going up against Luis Medina on the other side of this one. Couldn't stop him from projecting out okay, given that the Tigers on the other side, they feed some strikeout upside. 21.7% strikeout rate for him, but a 5.56 ERA, a 4.77 xFIP, 11.8% walks. Not really terrible for home run power, 3.13% home runs, only 6.2% barrels if we're hunting for anything about this pitcher. Okay, keeping the ball to a respectable launch angle, 89.1 miles an hour of exit velo, but pretty gettable for runs. Pretty low end for strikeouts. Too many opportunities at 11.8%. It looked like other places were having similar issues with his projections, just kind of popping for the opponent. Last time out, 7 strikeouts, gave up just 1 earned run, 2 hits, only faced 18 hitters in 3 2/3. let's see, a couple short starts in a row. Those were ugly for runs, but that one's short. I guess just in it. Yeah, it walked 4 in that one, so he was just pretty inefficient. I don't know what the pitch count was, but probably just an inefficient game overall. So I think your upside is 5 innings and 6 or 7 strikeouts. Maybe he gets through them clean. Maybe he can find his way to not a win. Probably not a quality start. It's a very low-end option. This is one where I don't fully... Like, he might do this, but I don't really think there's all that much ceiling behind it, and he's not all that much of a lock to even do this. So it's kind of take it as the projection and not much more in this situation, I think. If you're hunting around for alternative values from David Peterson, I do think he's one of the guys that you kind of just have to embrace, given the nature of the matchup, but probably prefer the Tigers' bats going up against him. I think Kerry Carpenter would be a priority in that situation. Spencer Torkelson obviously would be the other priority. It's pretty low end other than that. Matt Vierling hits righties fairly well. 9 homers, 6 steals, a 95 WRC+. Their second most productive bat. Andy Ibanez, 96 WRC+, I guess is the second most. Oh, no, 99 for Jake Rogers, given his home run upside. But as you can see, pretty limited options for run creation. Rogers has 20 homers in 345 plate appearances. Another cheap catcher that just basically is here to hit home runs and not much else. 221, 288, 449, 1% below average for runs, but plenty of premium contact. Another high strikeout guy at 32.2%. Miguel Cabrera saying goodbye to Oakland. 2,500, 2,100, 258, 318, 340, 16% worse than average. 3 big home runs this season. Good thing he showed up to play one more year. Akil Baddoo, mix and match for counting stats. 10 homers, 12 steals, and 338. Pretty weak. If he's hitting up here, he's a little bit more appealing. Parker Meadows, 3,000, 2,700, only 191, 305, 303, 70 WRC+. A little bit of lefty pop maybe if you're hunting around, but not tremendous upside given this contact, given all those strikeouts. It's really these two guys. Torque for 44.32. It's a bargain. 29 home runs at 214 ISO. And then Kerry Carpenter, 20 home runs and only 419 plate appearances. Tremendous contact for both players. Carpenter's got a 131 WRC+ to lead the team by a mile. So really, maybe you're grabbing a 3-man here with like these two guys, and like Vierling or McKinstry is fine, I guess, because he's a lefty. 3,400, 2,500. He plays multiple positions on both sides. 8 homers, 16 steals, but a 78 WRC+, over 494 plate appearances. It's a pretty weak option. Weak offenses on both sides. Fantastic pitcher. Weak pitcher who projects out okay because this team's so bad. Tariq Skubal by a mile and a half. Tigers bats, Luis Medina value, Athletics bats way at the bottom. Last game up. I'm going to come up a little bit beyond 5 o'clock. Pay the 5 o'clock over, but that's okay. Wanted to look at Emmett. Sheehan, yeah, some concerns about some short starts. Last few times out, pretty limited. 4 innings, 4 1/3. So he did pitch into the 5th, but he given up 5 runs, 4 strikeouts, and a walk. Only faced 10 hitters, came out after 3 the last time at Seattle. What happened there? Bear with me. Oh, this is way too old. Anybody know why he came out? Was that Jake Swales says Zohern is his dying pick. Not a bad one. The Orioles showing massive power in that game. Philly-Baltimore Mamba, I think that's a good stack. Much as I don't love targeting Peterson, it's plenty of good bats in your Phillies. Jake's stuck on his high-stakes lineup thinking I should get Suarez and pivot to Berrios. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't love targeting the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, bad as they can be. But I also don't really love Suarez. He's okay. I've succeeded with Suarez before, but not my favorite option. Anyway. So I think I got to downgrade this Sheehan projection. Given that we've been pretty limited in innings since Like pitched 4 innings at the beginning of August, and then he went 4 and a third, and only 3. So let's cut that Sheehan one off at the knees. What are they projecting him for? Crosstown. Yeah, they've got him 75 pitches. I think that should be it's about right. It's a lot like whoops. Boy, what was that tab? That is some old. I haven't been on this tab in years. Julie Gurriel still on the Astros. And maybe not years, maybe last year. Year before. Anyway, that's what happens when you click on the wrong spot. So let's cut like 8-10 points off the Sheehan projection and just kind of ignore them. I don't think we're going to get the depth now that I'm looking at it correctly. Apologies for that mix-up. Even if you did get a full run of depth, he's given up a pretty decent amount of power. So I think the Giants' stack was a little bit in play anyway. They're flashing not above the magic number power, but a lot of guys at or about it. Striking out 21.7%, but walking 10.6, a 5.32 xFIP under the 5.4 or 4 ERA. I do think he's got a little bit of talent. 6,600, 7,200 would have been a good price if we were getting the, it's probably projected 5+ innings, and it doesn't seem like we're getting that. So limited option, I think, on the Sheehan side of things. Kyle Harrison, just by virtue of pitching against the Dodgers, I think the option is a little bit limited. He's a terrific young pitcher, 27.1% strikeouts so far, a 5.18 ERA, and a 4.10 xFIP. I just don't want to tangle with the Dodgers here. It doesn't seem like a very good idea to me. I don't think we're limited in terms of any innings or anything like that. It's just a terrible matchup. But a very talented young kid. If he went out and pitched 5-6 clean innings, struck out a handful, it wouldn't totally shock me. I just don't think it's the right position to take up for DFS purposes. Probably not cheap enough to do that on DK. On FanDuel at 83, if you wanted to throw a couple darts at this projection, that's actually not bad. He does have the talent to get through this lineup. Probably less than likely, but not terrible. Not terrible price-wise at 83. Maybe you're a good replacement value guy. You can obviously roster Dodgers bats against him. All these guys up above or around the magic number for home runs. Mookie, Freddie, JD, and Max all above the magic number. Will Smith sitting at 9.19. Chris Taylor at 6.71. He does well against lefties. A lot of pop, 15 home runs on this season. Muncy doesn't suffer against fellow lefties. He's got 36 home runs overall this season. JD, 29 homers at 293 ISO, monster power bat. Mookie's got 39 homers at 285 ISO, another monster power bat. Also steals some bases, so does Freddie. It's a terrific lineup top to bottom. These guys don't strike out up at the top. Rosario doesn't strike out. These guys at the bottom don't strike out. It's just very, very limiting for Kyle Harrison. Any combination really of like these 5 guys and the other guys in the lineup, whatever form the lineup takes, is pretty playable against basically anybody. Not a priority stack given the talent on the mound on the other side, but definitely involved. They rank out pretty well. They project pretty well just because they're the Dodgers and they've got all this home run power showing. Harrison has had a little bit of issue with home runs, but if I'm not mistaken, that came in the form of one really bad game. I'll pull up the game log real quick. Yeah, 1 each in the last 2, but the one really bad game, 6 total earned runs at San Diego, gave up 4 home runs in that game. That was the one rookie clunker. The rest were decent starts where he just happened to give up a homer. But yeah, pretty limited on the Harrison side and realistic power upside for the Dodgers. So maybe a little bit more of a priority than when I said not a priority. They do rank second on the board for fantasy point projections after all. They are the Dodgers. They're very, very high priced, but worth getting to. The Giants, Lamont Wade, Mike Yastrzemski, Jock Peterson, Michael Conforto. I think you can grab some of the lefty power against Sheehan. He's been giving up a little bit of power. He's not going to pitch the full game. So I think there's upside there. Lamont Wade gets on base at a pretty good clip, 377 for the season. Wilmer and Tyler Estrada, who's projected to hit 8th. Both are effective players. Wilmer's got power with 22 home runs on the season. Estrada's got mid-range power with 12 homers, 22 stolen bases, a 105 WRC+. Wilmer leads the team with a 139 WRC+. Those are probably my two right-handed priority bats, but I do like Mitch Haniger hiding in the middle of the lineup. 5.57 in the home run model. He's only got 6 on the season in 218 plate appearances, only a 164 ISO, but makes immense contact at 11.4%, barrels 47.9% hard hits. Hit, what was it, 49 home runs? 39 home runs? 39 home runs 2 years ago. Pat Bailey, mix and match option. The lefties with pop. Yaz leads the way, 14 homers, a 218 ISO. Peterson, 14 homers, but only a 182 ISO in his 396 opportunities. And then Conforto, 15 homers and a 151 ISO in kind of a okay season in his return to action. Giants are fairly limited here. So I'd say Dodgers bats, Giants bats, only darts of Kyle Harrison and probably only on FanDuel and probably not even really much of an option there. And don't forget, we're cutting the Sheehan projection. So forget that one. That's about it. That was the last game. How about that? 5:05. Let's see what's going on in chat. Nathan Footy says, Fute. Fuddy? Not sure how to say the last name there, Nate. I kind of really like that Orioles spot, leading the way for power against Hunter Gaddis there. They're ranked third by fantasy point projections, pretty gettable in terms of price. So that would probably be my next priority. I like the Braves a lot, obviously going up against Jake Irvin. I imagine they'll be very, very popular. But you should probably be able to fit an Orioles and Braves stack together and have a little bit of money to spend. If you had to go cheaper than that, the Giants aren't all that expensive on the other side of this one, with a little bit of pop showing. They're pretty cheap. Not the worst spot. They rank fourth, third by point per dollar, fifth by home run upside against Sheehan. It's not bad. I like the Cubbies, but they rank down the board a little bit, going up against Oviedo. So probably Baltimore if you can afford it. Maybe maybe the Giants if you can't. Mamba appears to be getting a lot of Cleveland bats. Another team that's fairly cheap. I don't really like that spot that much. That was against, whoops. I like Rodriguez. Think he's a talented enough pitcher. Hopefully a lot of those stacks include like these three guys. Maybe some of Andres Jimenez. They are very cheap, so it makes sense that they're coming up. Outside of Jose Ramirez, obviously. I would say make sure that he's coming up with those value stacks. You don't want to only go to the value guys. So make sure that you're getting a lot of Ramirez and Naylor in there. Not my favorite stack of the day, though, Mama. With that in mind, guys, let's wrap up by looking at the pitching board one more time, and then we'll be back at 6 o'clock to talk through the single-game football slate. So about 50 minutes from when we get off the air here. Tariq Skubal with a bullet top of the board. Garrett Cole, tons of ceiling. These are your two top ceiling pitchers by a pretty wide margin over the rest of the slate. Ignore Emmett Sheehan. We'll just change it manually. So ignore Sheehan. Even for price, probably not great if he's not pitching full. If he gets 5, he could pay off the price. Don't get me wrong, but I question what the innings really look like. 75-ish, 80 pitches. Rodriguez definitely has value, 9,000, 8,100, especially given that he seems to be pretty unleashed in terms of the innings. Jose Barrios, a little challenging to get to at 10-8 on FanDuel, but 8,600 is definitely playable on DK. We talked about the David Peterson spot, very good value, realistic upside, realistic strikeout potential, keeps the ball in the yard for most of the time, but obviously a very tough matchup against Mamba's Phillies. That's interesting, Mama. Mama says, my model shows that Detroit has a lot of power, but bats are not elevating the balls in the strike zone. That is the cause for many swing and miss. Fair enough. They definitely have power, at least in 2 bats. I don't know about a lot of the others. Jose Barrios talked about. Peterson talked about. Ranger Suarez, realistic potential against the Mets. A lot of guys, like I said, it's a pretty fat middle. At least with like these, at least with like those guys. Any one of these guys is a reasonable play. Medina, I don't really have a ton of faith. I think, as I said when we were talking about that game, maybe lands in this general mid-20s type FanDuel score neighborhood, but probably not giving you much ceiling beyond that. Kyle Harrison, difficult matchup against the Dodgers. Hendo, a playable part against the Pirates. Kyle Hendricks, 6 clean innings could have value today. Not a major strikeout option, obviously, but a little bit of just innings pitch potential. Oviedo, no. Gaddis, no. Jake Irvin, no. Frederick Dute, you are quite welcome, my friend. Come on back in about 50 minutes. We'll talk about the single game football contest tonight. Giants and the Niners. Pretty one-sided matchup. Niners favored by 10, I believe. Brandon Ayuk does not appear to be playing, though. Per Sheffy, about 20 minutes ago. So, we'll see you guys then. Good luck if you're playing the baseball slate. I assume if you hung out for all this, you're playing the baseball slate tonight. So, good luck. Somebody out there go win something. And we'll talk to you in a little bit.